Well, everybody wants to talk about Jeff Sims first and foremost. So, Greg, we'll start with you in regards to your thoughts about his play and all the players and coaches' comments following.
Yeah, well, I thought the thing that was interesting yesterday is that Matt Rule said, Jeff's our starter. And, if he wasn't hurt, it wouldn't be an issue. And the whole team's behind him. But, yeah, obviously you can't put the ball on the ground like he was. I mean, he a guy that basically leads the nation in turnovers single-handedly. Obviously, Nebraska leads the nation in turnovers. And on the flip side, they're tied for the lead in sacks. So it's kind of strange. You're sitting there at 0-2. I was kind of wondering too. Nobody even asked anybody today if Jeff was practicing today, so we don't know the status of him. I don't know if anybody will have the courage to ask coordinators tomorrow about it either. So we might have to wait until Thursday to find out from Coach Rule. Because standing orders, nobody talks about injuries except for the head coach. So usually you can catch a player on it. They're just with a casual question.
Oh, sorry, I lost my camera.
But that's a cool logo.
I don't know why that popped in there.
I don't know, but
it just stopped for some reason. I apologize.
But this guy's had a pattern of this coming from Georgia Tech, and at a certain point, I know everybody just clamoring at the bit to try to get him out of there. But the coaches all stand behind him, and the players all stand behind him. And by all signs that he doesn't seem bothered by it. But you just cannot turn the ball over like that in those horrible situations. You give the game away. Basically, you're only down 13-7 with 6 minutes left in the third quarter, and disaster just always seems to strike, and I'm sure that's what Nebraska fans just hate to see. I mean, we all do, but he's still a guy that's a weapon. Obviously running the ball, but if you can't hold on to the ball, what good are you? And that's what they've preached about. You can't fumble the ball. You're not going to play if you fumble the ball. So I don't know. Everybody's behind Heinrich Harburg as well, and Chuba, I guess, has been a little banged up, but he seems to be good to go. And they're confident with both of those guys if they have to play. So we'll see how it goes moving forward.
So there were the 2 snaps that Jeff Sims dropped, just flat out dropped. Now, my thought was there are quarterbacks, we see them every week catching snaps that are behind him and up in the air and all over the place. And he has 2 that, bam, are going to hit him right in the belt buckle and he drops. And then there was the snap that hit the man in motion. Now, I don't know who to assess that to. Did anyone talk about whether was that a Jeff Sims issue or was that the center snapping the ball too early?
He called for the ball while the player was in motion, so it was on him.
Rule did say that, when talking about that stuff yesterday, he did say that he feels like he didn't prepare them well enough for the silent counts for the road game. He was kind of open about that, so that may have been something to do with some of the issue, but also the fact that he wasn't really jumping on the balls. Matt Rule said about that.
That was my issue with that first one. He tried to pick it up.
Yeah, and he said
you're in a position to get a field goal. He tried to pick it up and make a play out of it instead of just dropping on it.
Yeah, and Matt Rule said
the field goal.
Rule.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Ron Brown had chimed in with Matt Rule and said that we don't practice that, coach, in practice. And Matt Rule kind of was like, oh, wow, I never thought about that.
Yeah. And he alluded to Cam Newton too, the same thing. But like, to me, right? Because Matt Rule said he was upset with them during the game, and then until he talked to him about that after, he was then made to understand that we don't have him jumping on the ball in practice, so how can we expect him to do it a game? However, I don't know if part of that was due to a little bit of him just protecting Sims. I feel like some of that could be protecting Sims because I think that's an instinctual thing that people do. Honestly, I just think that
I mean, if you drop the ball, if you're responsible for it, what do? You jump on it.
Exactly.
You drop on it. I mean,
that's coached into you throughout.
And that's why the one that stings with me is the one where he tried to pick it up.
Yep.
And there was too many other hands right around there anyway for him to get it.
That's rule number one. Never try to pick the
ball
ball
on that one and just cradled it up, and you got the ball and you can kick the field goal.
Live to play another down. That's what it's got to be right now.
Yeah, but apparently, in practice they tell him to get away from it when it gets dropped on the ground, which is kind of alarming to me that it happens a lot in practice.
He said it was, he had mentioned the broken hand. I can't remember who it was.
That was,
and maybe it's to reduce injury risk because
Kerry
Collins, because he did mention that injury, so it could be one of those things they have built in to reduce injury risk. But to your point, like it needs to be done in practice for it to be instinctual and a habit.
So. Yeah,
because those 3 plays happened, and then the clincher for me, in terms of thinking, okay, is Matt Rule going to make a change, was when Jeff Sims is rolling right. He's staring down the receiver. He has both the receiver covered and he's got a guy between he and the receiver, and he waits and waits and waits and waits, and then he throws it and he still underthrows it and doesn't get it out close enough to the sideline, of course, and gets picked off for a pick 6. Okay. So I'm thinking at that point, when Rule stays with Sims, I'm thinking he told us a couple of weeks ago that Harburg and Purdy can win games. But I'm thinking, does he not have confidence in either one of them? And most likely it's going to be Harburg to play in a competitive game, because it was still a winnable game at that point.
I think it might be one of those instances where, oh my Lord, it just keeps making me click start Cam at the bottom. So I'm not sure why it keeps doing that. But I think this is one of those things where he went and got Jeff Sims. So I think he might feel the need to maybe stick with him and keep coaching him. Maybe because I think he brought in Sims as kind of a guy he wants to develop anyways. And so I think that may be part of it, where he's just trying to stick with his guy and develop him. Because, Harburg, he's been at the university a while, and he still has things that he needs to polish up as well. But I just think that he still feels the most confident in Jeff Sims' ability. I think he believes Sims has the highest upside, just in the way he's talked about him as being, he thinks he can potentially grow him to be a pro quarterback. So I think he has a lot of faith in him, and I think that's just what he sees is just the upside in Sims, and I think that's part of his plan to get back. It's just we have to hope that what he saw in him was a good evaluation, because it's seemingly the only thing that he kind of may have misstepped is maybe thinking Sims was going to be more ready than he has been. So that's my take on why I think he's just been so reluctant on changing the quarterbacks. And it's week 2. Again, I think I don't think Rule is as panicky as we are, because again, he's being cool, collected in the press conferences. So I don't think he's feeling that we are based off emotion, and we're like, switch it now because we want to start winning.
The entire coaching staff is really calm and cool.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's worrying about about them falling apart or anything like that. And I think, Jeff Sims too, I think Rule sees that. I mean, you can see it too when you watch all the guys together. That, I mean, he is a specimen. I mean, he has got the most athletic ability out of any of those quarterbacks.
100%.
And is the most dynamic guy that they have. especially in the run game. So, I mean, that. I think that has a lot to do with his Coach Rule's hesitancy to put Heinrich Haarberg in there, even though we all know that Heinrich Haarberg can run.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, that's not an issue for him.
Deep ball accuracy needs some work.
But I just think that they're having problems with continuity and trying to get, you know, them in a position to you know, for Sims to look good.
Yeah.
It's all kind of scramble mode out there the way things are going.
Well, and two, I don't think what people are accounting for. Mark, do you mind if I just go over some numbers real quick?
Absolutely.
Do it.
I broke down some numbers yesterday, and I think people are kind of understating the impact that Isaiah Garcia Castaneda and Trey Palmer had on this offense last year. Because when breaking down the 2-week totals last year with Trey Palmer and Isaiah Garcia Castaneda, and then when I removed their numbers, and then versus this year. So with them, the first 2 weeks of last year, albeit against easier opponents, Northwestern, North Dakota, it was 274 yards per game passing. Without those two, it was 139 yards per game passing. This year, we're at 110. So this is one thing we can point to right now based on these totals, because our rushing is increased. 299 versus 403 total yards, 4.4 yards per carry to 5.5. Snaps. This is another thing that we have to factor in. 2022, 135 snaps, 23, 119. So turnovers, 8 versus 2. That's why I think people maybe should not panic quite as much, because the defense, if you would have told us we've been leading the NCAA in sacks a year ago, we would have taken that, right? We've improved defense at every level, special teams. You know, our defense played well. It's just they had to play so much and spend so much time on the field trying to keep that offense off the field that eventually they just gave in. But against tougher competition, everything else has improved. And if I don't think people realize how big of a loss Trey Palmer was. Husker fans know that he was the deep ball guy, and he was honestly kind of the go-to guy in situations where we needed to get a first down. Jeff Sims, to me right now, doesn't have a true number one wide receiver. And I think that is a big key factor that people don't, you know, most quarterbacks have a number one guy. Right now, nobody has established himself as that guy. And that's tough on a quarterback as well. And, you know, I think a lot of what could be happening with Sims right now is mental. You know, it's hard sometimes when you're making mistake after mistake you got to try to reset that in your mind.